64 truck 5, 248, 3-1.
People on here.
You guys want to make sure, please put your computer on mute, please.
Thank you, Jerry. That was me.
I'll mute mine after I say hello. JC.
John Payne here. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you, John.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you, Mom.
400 emergency response danger line of fresh 50. For strong odor of burning plastic in the residence, 420 Ridge Avenue in Verona. 285, 224, 216, 222, and 225. Commit on each fire ops 3 at 18.
Sounds like some Allegheny County transmissions.
Oops. I thought I had my thing on audio mute. Sorry.
That's okay.
Is that like a statewide box?
He was right. It's Allegheny County. That was my Minotaur behind me.
They gave us $115 to go into.
Okay, but now next step when we go, you're going to spend $100 plus whatever.
Go ahead. Ready? You ready? We're going to call the statewide advisory board meeting to order. I'm going to have a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence for our fallen firefighters and emergency personnel and their families. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. Going to start tonight's program out with our new chairman of the board, Bill Rigby, for the Pennsylvania Fire and Emergency Service Institute. Bill, would you like to speak up here? I'm looking for you on this.
Yeah, I think you got me now, right, Frank?
We got you. Go ahead.
First off, I'd just like to thank everybody for giving, and Frank, for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I am the new, in 24, current president of PFESI for the Institute, the board. I just wanted to give everybody a quick update on the status of the board and some accomplishments we've made. First off, I'd like to say we're going through somewhat of a transition currently with our executive director, Jerry Ozog, has an opportunity professionally that he's moving to. And so he will be leaving us He's still working closely with us right now during the transition. And we look to work with Jerry closely, maybe moving forward to get us through year's end. So a little bit of change there. The board, and we'd also like to thank Jerry for, I think it's 5 years, correct, Frank? That
Yes,
Jerry's been with us?
Yes,
5 years. And I will say that the executive director spot for the board is a challenging position, to say the least, because we often have changes on the board, and the faces and the voices change. What I will say, the current board makeup is one of the best mixes I've seen in the fire service. I came full circle, just personally. I started out as a volunteer, went on to be a career firefighter for the city of Chester, and all the way up to the rank of fire commissioner. I just recently retired and taken a role in a municipality nearby where I have all volunteers again, volunteer firefighters. So that being said, I wanted to remark a little bit about our makeup, where we strategically try to have folks from throughout the Commonwealth, from the Western PA, Northeast, Southeast, Central. We do a real good job, I think, of accomplishing that. And the other piece of this that's important, and Frank may hit on this, and I think John Payne, who may speak tonight, the importance of having we have representation from everyone in the fire service on the Institute currently. We have representation from the volunteers. We have representation from the career firefighters. We have the current president of the PPFFA who sits on our board, Bob Brooks. We have the president of the career fire chiefs. And we also have representation from our EMS groups in the Commonwealth. So why is that so important? Well, one voice up on the Hill has been something that in the last 12 months, nothing, I kind of inherited that, but probably in the last 12 months going into last year when Steve Bear was still with us, we were able to send one message. We were doing joint letters where everyone had supported legislation that has came down for the fire service. I think that's critically, super important that we're all on the same page. And I'm sure Frank and you guys will talk tonight a little bit further about the grant program in the state. There was a push to have an extra $30 million put towards that program. And, we had a little disconnect. I won't go too far into that, but it wasn't from the fire service. And that was important. PTSI, I'm sure you guys will talk about tonight. Super important, right? Last time they tried to roll this bill out, House Bill 1632, they tried to carve the volunteers out of that bill in the final hours. And we stood strong and we opposed it. And we got it cleaned up. And this time it's going to the governor's desk tomorrow. And it includes everybody. So that's kind of what the board is, somewhat of a bridge for the fire service to bring everyone together. And not that I want to go on and on, but I just wanted to keep you up to speed. And we have some transition with some board members. And to be clear, we don't have any ambition today or this month or to change out and hire a new executive director. I think our move is to kind of hold in place and transition with Jerry. And some of our board members are going to take a step up and to a larger role, and getting out into the Commonwealth and assisting the firefighters any way we can. So I think that's kind of what you wanted me to get the message across, Frank, unless you have anything else you wanted me to know.
oh, thank you, Chairman Brigby. Thank you very much.
I do have to jump off because I am attending a fireman's Delaware County Firemen's meeting tonight here is about to start. So I didn't know if anybody had any questions about the Institute that I could address. I, I would welcome that if anybody does.
Bill, if any questions come up later in the meeting, we'll make sure they're sent to your desk.
Yeah, and Frank should be able to assist with any of those questions. And Frank's a big part of our transition now. So I thank you for your time.
All right, thanks, Bill. Jim Carstetter, who's been sitting next to me since I took this SWAB chairman job, mentoring and coaching and sharing whatever other problems I had. So Jim, I know we have a new lobbyist, and I'd like if you could jump in now, give us a little bit from the state side and introduce your new lobbyist.
Thank you, Frank. Yes, Tom Santana decided that Harrisburg had gotten a bit toxic and he was going to close his business down. And he notified us back in May that that was going to be his intention. And we started looking for a replacement. I think we found a good one that we've brought on board, One Strategies, and John Payne is our new representative. He hit the ground running. As a matter of fact, he actually was getting involved before we officially took the vote to bring him on board. So I've been very pleased with the communications that we've gotten so far. He's got a staffer on, and I'm sure in a minute he'll talk a little bit about that. But some of you that are on my mailing chain, you've already received a couple of things that I forwarded out that we've gotten from them. Not the latest, the latest of which I sent out on my ring had to do with the PTSI bill that was just referenced. And I asked for some feedback from my committee, those that were on my committee, if they were satisfied with the language because the volunteers were put back into the bill as it passed to be signed. The only concerns that I got back regarding that was several were not happy with the 2-year limitation to the benefit. It's good to get the thing passed, and maybe that's something that needs to be looked at moving forward if we find out that it's inadequate or they're being denied or what have you. If we get into it later on this evening at our committee meeting in September, we did come up with several general categories for priorities for next session, and I'll leave that up to you, Frank, if you want to bring that up at some point during the meeting. Okay. And at this time, I'd like to introduce John Payne. He's our new lobbyist. And so, John, if you'd like to jump in.
Thank you, Jim. And John, thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you. I guess I'm the new old guy coming on board, and I'm excited. Jim's really been great to work with, and he's right. As soon as we started having conversations in September, we started working up in the hill right away, because we knew, and I know from the 14 years of being a state representative, there are 2 times during the year you're going to see crazy stuff happen. June and budget, and every other year in October when it's an election year, because the members can't exist voting after November. So, you got to wait till January to be installed. So we know October can get crazy. And it did. We had a flurry of legislation that there for a while with the amendments on Senate Bill 144. I think Jim would agree it was almost too good to be true that we could think that we had Senate Bill 365, Senate Bill 1132, House Bill 1379, House Bill 2085. I mean, we had that Senate Bill 144, y'all's bill. We were attaching the cancer issue, Class B firefighting foam, the gear issue, and the PFAS chemicals, plus the one that's headed in the governor's desk tomorrow. So I was in the hearing when the 3 amendments passed the Senate Bill 144, passed the House. But they had gotten feedback from the Senate that if they sent that over as amended, it would not be moved. So rightly so, they held it in the House. It's time to sit down with the other side and figure out what we can get and what we can't get. I found it interesting, some of the discussions early on, and I think Bill mentioned this right away. It is extremely important that we as the fire service are united in voice. If we have 10 things on our agenda and we can only unite on 2, that's okay. But let's focus on those 2 and let's get letters of support from everybody in those 2 and let's go fight on those 2. I have to remind the new people when they first come up to the Hill after being there that long. This is kind of like pizza. We bake it. We don't eat it all. We don't get it all. We get a slice at a time. I was around for the gaming legislation in early 03, 04. We passed slots. 2010, we passed tables. 2017, we passed online and sports betting. The point I'm getting at is it's a process, and you don't, very seldom do you come in and get everything on your list. It just doesn't happen. So I'm really pleased that we have a bill going to the governor's office that was on the list. And I'm even more pleased that we have 3 or 4 pieces of legislation that the House was moving. So we just have to work together with the other chamber. But I'm excited about being here. I think you can tell that in my voice. 25 years in the fire service, 11 years as chief in Hershey. And then I spent 10 years as chief of the department in the Hershey Chocolate Company. So been lobbying since I got out of the house, the end of 16, so it's 7 years. It's 2 years now with 1+. Any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. And like I said, Matt Fine has done a great job. Jim indicated that Matt's our guy that does all the tracking of the bills and the status of the bills and where they're at, and he'll keep all of our information updated.
John, thank you for joining us, and I'm sure you're going to find out you're working with a great team, and not only some mentors in the group, but the support is outstanding. SR6 made it one voice, and we've been preaching since. So I hope we can continue saying we're one voice. But
Well,
thanks again.
Keep it up, and thank you for having me. Like I said, I'm excited to work with all of you.
Thank you. I know our commissioner couldn't join us today, but I'm going to ask JC if you can give us an update from the commissioner's office. Part of being the deputy is, it gets passed downhill. You know how it works.
Oh, yeah.
So welcome.
Hi, everybody. How are you? Can you hear me all right?
Yes, go ahead, JC.
Okay. So you actually are getting a 2-part tonight to replace Commissioner Cook. Both Deputy Commissioner Claire and I.
There was such a glare. I did not see you standing there.
Hold on a second. We asked somebody to mute.
You guys want to mute? All the guys want to mute? Check your thing. I hear some background noise there, so please mute your mics while the deputy commissioner speaks.
Thank you, JC.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the activity out of our Harrisburg office, and then Harvey is going to chime in and talk about activity up in Lewistown. So in Harrisburg, as you all know, our annual grant program closed on October 20th. The application period closed at 4 p.m. that day. At the close of the application period, we'd received 2,541 total applications. That's 87 more applications than we had the prior year. There are 2,013 of those were fire applications. The fire number is up 64 applications. EMS, we had 528 applications, up 23 from the prior year. So our number of applicants is larger this year by 87. That could impact the calculation. Remember that the calculation here is a divide by and then some bonus points and we are planning a webinar in January to explain the formula, exactly how the calculations are done, so that we can give you some specific details so that when you get your grant agreement, it's not quite as much of a surprise, right? You understand how we arrived at those numbers. I can't really tell you what our numbers are yet because a portion of the
total pool of money available comes from fireworks money. And that number changes every year based on how many fireworks were sold and how much tax they collected. So we get that number in early December. So we don't right now know what our total is to even plug in to start to do the overall calculations. But like I said, stand by for a webinar in January that explains things to you. In terms of our loan department, we currently have 33 loans on the waiting list. 5 are going to the application review committee this week on Thursday. We have 4 tentatively scheduled for November and 8 tentatively scheduled for the December meeting. So we are keeping that number right around 30 as we approve them and more applications come in. That's far better than the 110 we were at when I started with the office in May of 23. So the loan program is going along, and I'm sure someone will speak in your legislative report. There is some movement to try to increase those loan lending limits, and I'll let your legislative committee speak to that. In other programs, in terms of community risk reduction, first week of October, we completed a data analysis class at the Pima building in Harrisburg, put on by Vision 2020. They're kind of the 800-pound gorilla of community risk reduction. They're an organization that is made up of a lot of the major nationwide fire service organizations. And Vision 2020 really helps you hone in on doing good community risk reduction. We also last weekend ran a community risk reduction best practices class from National Fire Academy at the Montgomery County Fire Academy. There's one more of those coming up. Enrollment is kind of low. If you could, please stress for people to get onto CADIS, look at the course offerings and register for the courses if they fit into them. In terms of recruitment retention, that staff is busy starting to meet with departments. We have 2 people that are up and trained now in recruitment and retention activities. Having a lot of success meeting with departments and high school programs, believe it or not. There's a lot of interest out there in high school programs. One of them that we're kind of holding up as a model, they're doing great work, is the program up in Danville. And we've had several meetings with them already, and we'll be going back to meet with them on November 14th to help with their planning for their next expansion of that program. The advisory board, and some of you on the call here are members of our advisory board, know that the advisory board has been working on relief reform. We're working on proposed language for that legislation. We anticipate when the legislature comes back early next year that will grow some legs and start to move. Frank Zangari is working on a subcommittee of the advisory board to look at establishing a state fallen firefighters memorial. We're currently one of 2 states in the nation that don't have a statewide memorial, us and Hawaii, and we need to get that fixed. And if any of you know Frank is the guy to get the fix in, right? He can take a project and move it. So he's going to be working that for us. We do have 2 members working on cleanup of the items in our relief database. They've submitted 2 spreadsheets of 2 categories already. We're going to have clerical support in our office start to update the items that are actually listed in that database. In terms of support for line of duty death, we have circulated some draft SOPs to groups that were interested in assisting us during line of duty death incidents. And once we have all that feedback buttoned up, we'll be coming to various organizations and ask for representatives to be trained to be part of the state's last team so that we can have more people out in the field to actually provide assistance. Right now, that assistance is pretty much limited to our 2 field supervisors. That's not enough people to provide adequate support. So that project will be moving. We've also been doing a lot of interagency meetings in Commonwealth government here. Lots of meetings with the Auditor General, making sure that we all stay kind of in tune with each other as our office makes determinations on what's an allowable relief expense. We're being very careful to stay in communication with the Auditor General. So when one of those items comes up in an audit, they know it's been approved. There's not any runaround. That process is working very well. We also have been meeting with DCED, the Department of Community and Economic Development. The Governor's Center for Local Government Activity has folks that go out and do studies. And one of the things that we've heard about the studies from DCED is DCED hands them a document and then says, there you go. And one of the things that Commissioner Cook and the Secretary of DCED, Deputy Villela and myself had a four-way meeting and talked about how our office and the local government center can do more to support departments once those reports are issued. Rather than just dropping a document off and saying, here's your report, give them some assistance in getting towards implementing some of the things that are in that report. And that really is the key to those reports actually facilitating change in the fire service, right? It's one thing to put something on paper. It's another thing to make something actually happen from that. And we're working with DCED very closely to try to define exactly how we can provide that support. The last thing I'll mention is we have been meeting with the state police. They're interested in potentially moving some legislation that would change the required reporting for local fire marshals. Right now, if you stick to the letter of the law, the local fire marshal, if a PSP marshal doesn't come out to investigate a fire, has to fill out a form on paper and mail it to the state police. Now, in this day and age, filling out a sheet of paper on every fire that happens in the Commonwealth and sending it to the state police is a crazy idea, because you know what happens to them. They go into a box on a shelf and you can't use the data. So we're working with them as we work with data systems to be able to hopefully get some change in that process to make that data set more valuable to us. And with that, I'll turn it over to Harvey to tell you what's happening up at the Academy.
Put me on. Hold on, JC. Two things real quick for you. One is already established November 12th. I'll send out to the team that has shown some interest on the memorial. So in the afternoon of November 12th, I'll be sending out an email shortly to get everybody on board. And the second thing is, did we get anything back from L&I in reference to chainsaws? Are we still in discussion?
I would say we're beyond discussion. Legal counsel has come to a gentleman's agreement that we're putting all the documentation in place. We're passing documents from our legal to their legal to make sure everybody's okay with what it says on paper, and then we'll be able to move forward. I would say the issue is probably 90% resolved at this point.
All right, great. Working that, appreciate it. Are you out there?
Harvey Boy.
Frank, can you hear me?
And Harvey.
Hey, good evening, Frank, and everybody else. Glad to be with you here tonight. I have the headset on. It just works better. The microphone on my computer does not work very well. So just some quick points of interest up at the Fire Academy there in Lewistown. In our certification department, we have 2 open positions, the technical advisor positions. We are holding interviews this week for those positions, and we're hoping that we can get those things filled. If not in this round, hopefully very, very shortly. Our assistant administrator job is currently, we're working with HR. There's some job specifications that need to be taken care of there as far as job spec. And we're working closely with HR on that. Everything has been submitted, and we're waiting for information to come back to see if we can change some of those job specs. On November 6th and 7th at the Fire Academy, we will have the Fire Service Certification Advisory Committee. ETA meetings on the 6th, and then the test site coordinator meetings will be held on the 7th of November. They are in person, and hopefully everybody can make it. Happy and excited to report Engine Academy 1, which was also known as Structure 1 for many, many, many years, has gone through 24. It's been test run, it's been tweaked, and I can honestly say at this point we're putting it to bed. It's been widely accepted, and it's a very aggressive schedule that Engine Academy is today for Engine Academy 1. Engine Academy 2, there's a pilot that has been run in 24. They're doing what they did with Engine Academy 1. They are doing some tweaks and updates and things like that. The next step then is to, we need some materials, some logistical support stuff that they want to get to further enhance that product in that training. As far as instructor updates, the hazardous materials awareness and operations, Pete has done an excellent job with that and rolling that out. We've had 4 face-to-face meetings, one of which was streamed live and fairly widely attended. There's 2 more left, one in Westmoreland this weekend and one on December 14th. Yeah, 14th up at Luzerne County Community College at 9 a.m. We're going to reach out and get in that Northeast region that seems to be ignored sometimes. So those face-to-face meetings will be taking place. We are also in the middle with that particular curriculum for instructors of taking some of those updates sessions, and we will have an electronic version of that for those who didn't make the face-to-face or get caught up yet, there will be an online curriculum update for those hazardous materials awareness and operations instructors. That's currently being worked on as we speak. The other part is the new vehicle rescue program has rolled out as far as the instructor update. And there are 2 more rollouts coming that are online. They're on the ACADIS website, of course, for those who need to register for that. I highly, highly suggest that those that are left need to get registered and take that training. They don't want to take the whole course over again if they're a vehicle rescue instructor. So please reach out to anybody you know that's a vehicle rescue instructor and tell them to get on either November 9th at 10 a.m. or November 14th at 7 p.m. The last 2 efforts to get everybody up to date, and quite frankly, who want to be updated. If they decided that the vehicle rescue is not in their wheelhouse anymore, or they just want to give that up, okay, I get it. But please, please, please reach out to those instructors and get them onto that update. And the last part I have for you, well, 2 last things, is the NFPA 1010. The certification group is starting to work on formulating committees to get the certification part of that squared away. And as far as the curriculum / training, I am looking to put together committees here in the next 3 to 4 weeks and look at how we're going to address the 1010 standard that's here and now as far as the training goes. At the Fire Academy, Engine Academy 1 is on November 18th. The ZFID class for instructor development was this past weekend, was the first weekend, and then the second weekend starts on November 22nd. Very excited. It sounds like a real good group in that particular. So as we roll down, I will say we will be at the instructor conference in Westmoreland this weekend. And but as we roll down, we certainly have had a busy year, and we've been short-staffed, but we still made it. And I'm looking forward to winter so we can catch our breath and start focusing on 2025 of what we can do and what's our next hurdles. But wanted to thank everybody for allowing me to speak tonight. And Frank, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Well, Harvey, the other thing you should put on your work table is the evaluators. Slim to next to none. I know in Schuylkill, we're reaching way out in Pennsylvania to get evaluators for our certification program. So a couple of years ago, we did an evaluator program. Maybe we can look at another one going into the winter here and get some more people for evaluators.
And Frank, I'll mention there is a new evaluator workshop that is being rolled out. It's been tested at 2 different locations, another one coming up at Westmoreland Friday night. So I think you're going to see more of those. So I'll have to get that information to you. Maybe we can get one up in your region there.
Right. Appreciate that. Thank you, and thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Jim, laws and legislation, Jim Carstetter.
Well, I think we're all of the persuasion this late into the session, we've pretty much accomplished what we're going to get done for this session. A lot of you know I've been following this stuff since 1971, and this session, the House has taken more vacation than anything else with the vacancies that they had and extended recesses and so forth. And it's my hope, and with John on board, that next session might be a little bit more productive and perhaps a little bit more willingness to have some working across the chambers. It didn't seem to be, to me at least, this session, the cooperation between the Democrat majority in the House and the Republican majority in the Senate. There just didn't seem to me to be the cooperation to make things happen that I would have liked to have seen. At our September committee meeting in conjunction with the FASP annual meeting, our committee met and discussed some general areas that we'd like to see as priority for the next session. And at that time, it was the relief reform, which has already been mentioned as coming up there. This was based on the recommendations that the PFAB adopted and forwarded to the legislature last December. Out of that list of recommendations for our committee, the top two priorities of the numerous recommendations were the $10,000 minimum relief allocation and increasing to 20% the amount of money collected in the fund going to the relief distributions. The other thing that was on the list at that time was getting PTSI done. We've got that passed, and as I say, I sent out the notification when the bill was passed, going to the governor tomorrow, asking if they were satisfied with the language that was in the bill. The concerns that I got back had to do with the 2-year limitation on the benefit. So I'm leaving it on the list for now for us to monitor to see if that subject needs to go back and be addressed. Also discussed was the fire and EMS grant reform and to include increasing the fund as had been proposed by the governor in his budget proposal this year. As I talked to people on the committee and in other organizations, there's a lot of skepticism that was ever a legitimate concern based on the fact that it didn't come up legislatively until after the budget was done and the program renewed as it was. And then there's others that felt, yeah, it was a legitimate recommendation by the government, but really push that addition with the legislature. Of course, then after the fact, the House legislation went over to the Senate, and they basically amended the bill to remove the increased amount of money and make it consistent with what was done with the budget, and passed it. So we don't know if they're going to go back and address this during the extended life of the grant program as part of the budget next year or not. We'd like to see it if it was. Another long time thing that's been on there has been the fire and EMS county authorities authorization. This has been proposed for the last 3 sessions, but it's never received serious consideration. And the EMS bill got 1 reading in the Senate this year in committee, and that's as far as it ever went. And it's been opposed by the unions because of the fear of it having an impact on Act 111. And if there is some other way of addressing this, I think there needs to be something done that allows the counties to do something to make resources available. It's a top priority in our county. our county executive, we're home rule charter in Erie County, has been trying to work with doing a countywide municipal authority, and trying to herd all of those municipalities together to get something done has been like trying to herd cats. It would be a lot easier if the county had the authority to just do it on their own and include the municipalities that wanted to get in or not. But as a part of that, it would have to, especially on the EMS side of things, dovetail in with the 911 and the dispatch protocols, because the big issues that we're facing from the operational side of things has to do with agencies that maintain their license but report themselves out of service 90% of the time, and are willing to accept mutual aid handling their load but aren't willing to contribute to the readiness costs. And a less than countywide thing, there'd have to be something put into place that would allow for those costs to be realized somehow, because they can't refuse to take a call that's dispatched to them by a county facility. So there's some real issues there that need to be worked out. In my own case, we run anywhere from 30 to 50% of our calls every month are out of district. And my little community of about 11,000 people cannot afford to be a provider for half the county without somebody contributing to the readiness costs. It's reducing our rolling stock life by over 50%. And then the last was a catch-all, and we kind of touched on it a little bit tonight, but it had to do with training issues, and it was a general category that would include curriculum and certification issues, instructors, junior firefighters, and other training delivery system issues. You heard Harvey addressing some of the things that they're doing. Of main interest this session was the junior firefighters and some of the programs and tie into secondary education delivery systems. So those were the main categories that we're interested in pursuing for the next session. As John has mentioned and Frank mentioned, and it's important that we pick some things that we can all get behind, although not everything that we issued joint letters on were we happy with the final result. I can say that I've had legislators mention to me that they have noticed that we're speaking, and when you see those 4 organizations at the top of the letterhead coming to them, they recognize that there is a consensus in the opinion that they're being given, and I can't say highly enough how much I appreciate the work that we've done together with the PFESI, the career fire chiefs, and the PPFFA in doing those joint letters. I think it's been well worth the sessions. Jerry has had, I would say, probably quarterly leadership sessions where we've gotten on board, and Jerry did the mechanics of putting the letters together for us and getting them circulated. And hopefully now with him moving on, Bill Rigby had indicated to me at the FASP meeting in September that we would be able to continue to do that. I'm not quite sure at this point what the mechanics are going to be of doing that. Maybe John can step up and help with some of that, but I think it's very important that we continue the relationship that we've had there and being able to facilitate those leadership meetings that we've had. And that's pretty much where we're at going into the next session. I'd be interested in any other priorities that other organizations would want to add on to the list. As John said in his presentation, though, you can't get everything, and I don't want to overburden the list with 50 different things that we want to do, because that's unrealistic. But if we add a few things and then have a leadership session and pare it down to some priorities, that would be my goal. So if there's any questions or comments, I'd be welcome to hear them.
Thank you very much, Jim. Any comments? Okay, as we move on here, 14 years ago, Bo Crowding sat down in Westchester and said he was finishing his 2-year term as the chairman of the SWAB. And I was, raised my hand and said, I'd like to give this a try. It's a 2-year term. Tonight, that term is up. I've been sitting in this position for the last 7 terms. So if there's an interested party, at this point, I'm going to open nominations for the next 2 years of the SWAB chairman of the PFESI. Are there any nominations?
This is Jim Carstater again. Frank, I would nominate you for an 8th term.
I'll second that.
And just because I started it, Bo will third it. I know you can't, but
Are there any?
Hold on, go ahead.
Any other nominations? Do we have a motion to close the nominations?
I'll motion.
Joe Canoli?
Yep.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Yes.
Second by Charles
Nominations
Myers.
will be closed. Somebody call my wife, tell her I got 2 more years.
I got it.
Canoli's probably on the phone already, but.
Well, you realize, Frank, that she's the only reason we keep you around.
Redman tells me the same thing. Thank you, Jim. I'll have Jerry engage in some closing remarks and then I'll finish up the meeting. Jerry?
Okay, guys, I think you can see me. I appreciate all the help and assistance over the past 5 years. I'm not going to go away completely. I was recruited over the summer to serve a new role at the Pennsylvania Association of Township Supervisors. I started there about almost a week and a half ago. I'm going to be a public safety specialist, specifically working with local government to bring fire and EMS together, work with the leadership at PSATs, their executive board, and their hundreds of members of their organization. They have 1,500 townships, and I'll be specializing on working on a bunch of different stuff. So appreciate all of your feedback and assistance. As President Rigby mentioned, I'll be helping the Institute till the end of the year here with the mechanics of running some meetings, closing out some of the stuff that we started. So thank you very much for your support and stuff, and I'll turn it back over to Frank.
Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it. Before I entertain a motion to adjourn, I'd like to wish everybody a happy, healthy, safe holiday season. Is there anybody that has any business before I close the meeting? Last call. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Hi, Frank. This is Heather with the Ambulance Association. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
go.
I raised my hand, but
I'm sorry, Heather. I'm
no,
too
that's
short to see
okay.
hands up. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for the invitation to the meeting, and I wanted to attend just to express my gratitude to Jerry, because it has been great working with Jerry. There have been times where I've reached out to him to ask him what fire's position was on some specific bills that were fire related, and then we supported those as well. So we have had a very good working relationship with Jerry, and we are sad to lose him. However, we have not lost him because now he will be still in public safety. But I did want to let you know that Jerry has been great to work with.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you very much. Any other comments? Anybody else raised their hand that I missed? Okay, thanks again, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Joe, second? Got it?
Second.
All right.
Got it.
Been a motion to adjourn. Have a good evening.